Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our philosophy series where we dive into ideas that have shaped human thought. Today, we're exploring one of India's most provocative and unconventional schools of philosophy, Charvaka. Known as the materialist school, Charvaka stands out for its bold rejection of many traditional beliefs. This includes concepts like the soul, karma, and the afterlife, ideas that are deeply rooted in Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism. Charvaka's philosophy is surprisingly direct. They argue that only physical, tangible matter exists, and they deny the existence of any sort of spiritual or supernatural realm. So let's get into how Charvaka arrives at this worldview and why it was so controversial, especially in ancient Indian thought. First, let's start with Charvaka's core belief: only physical matter exists. According to Charvaka, what we can see, touch, taste, and measure is real. Anything beyond that, whether it's the soul, karma, or an afterlife, simply doesn't exist. In their view, these ideas are human inventions without any basis in reality. To break it down simply, Charvaka's approach is a kind of early materialism. Materialism in philosophy is the belief that everything that exists is made up of physical matter, something you can observe or measure in some way. They argue that anything we can't perceive with our senses is just speculation. So, if someone can't see, touch, taste, or hear the soul, then, as far as Charvaka is concerned, it's not real. Imagine this analogy. Let's say someone tells you there's an invisible creature in your room, but you can't see it, hear it, or feel it in any way. Charvaka would say, well, if there's no way to detect this creature, it probably doesn't exist. In their view, spiritual concepts like the soul and karma are like that invisible creature, ideas that don't have any tangible, physical evidence to support them. Now, let's go a little deeper into what Charvaka rejects: the soul, karma, and the afterlife. These three ideas are foundational to many religious and spiritual systems, especially in India. So Charvaka's stance wasn't just a philosophical difference, it was a major challenge to traditional beliefs. First, the soul. According to Hindu, Buddhist, and Jain traditions, each person has a soul or an eternal essence. This soul is thought to survive after death and is often believed to carry on to another life through reincarnation. But Charvaka completely rejects this. They argue that there is no such thing as an eternal soul. Instead, they say what we call consciousness or the self is simply a result of our physical body working together. When the body dies, consciousness ends too. To understand this, think of a candle flame. The flame exists because of the wick and the wax, right? When the candle is gone, the flame is also gone. In Charvaka's view, the soul or self is like that flame, dependent on the physical body. When the body ceases to function, so does the consciousness. It doesn't go on to another world or reincarnate. This was and still is a pretty radical idea. Next, let's talk about karma. In most Indian philosophies, karma is a law of cause and effect, which says that our actions in this life affect our future lives. Good actions lead to positive results, and bad actions lead to negative consequences, often believed to carry over to future lifetimes. But Charvaka rejects this idea as well. For them, the concept of karma is just another human invention, an attempt to explain suffering and reward in moral terms. Since they believe there's no soul and no reincarnation, the whole idea of karma doesn't make sense to them. For Charvaka, what happens to us is simply the result of natural, physical causes. There's no cosmic justice system keeping score. And finally, the afterlife. Many religious beliefs focus on what happens after death, whether it's reincarnation, as in Hinduism and Buddhism, or reaching some form of paradise. But Charvaka doesn't buy into any of this. To them, death is the end, plain and simple. When you die, there's no afterlife, no journey to another world, no reincarnation. They argue that these ideas were created out of a human fear of death and a desire for something beyond this life. So why was Charvaka so controversial? Imagine how these ideas clash with mainstream religious views. For many people, the belief in a soul, karma, and an afterlife gives life a sense of meaning and purpose. It also provides comfort, knowing that good deeds will be rewarded or that loved ones might be reunited in another life. Charvaka's philosophy removes that comfort. They say that meaning comes only from the life we have right now, not from some future life or cosmic plan. To put it in perspective, think of Charvaka as the person in the room who insists on seeing proof for everything. Where traditional belief systems offer faith and reassurance about the unknown, Charvaka says, no, show me the evidence. They argue that if there's no physical proof, then it's likely not real. Let's use another analogy to make Charvaka's ideas more relatable. Think of Charvaka's approach as similar to that of a strict scientist. Imagine a scientist who says, if I can't observe it, I don't believe it. This scientist wouldn't believe in ghosts, magic, or even luck, because none of these things have been proven by physical evidence. For Charvaka, the same applies to religious concepts. They approached these ideas with a scientific-like skepticism long before modern science even existed. In fact, you could say that Charvaka was an early form of empiricism, the idea that knowledge comes from what we observe and experience directly, not from spiritual beliefs or scriptures. They believed in trusting one's own senses and perceptions as the ultimate source of truth. So what impact did Charvaka have? Although Charvaka itself did not become a dominant philosophical school, its ideas have had a lasting influence. The fact that it rejected the most fundamental beliefs of its time made it a powerful example of questioning authority and challenging assumptions. Charvaka philosophy is often seen as an early form of secular, human-centered thinking, which would later become more common in modern, scientific and secular societies. Today, Charvaka is sometimes looked back on as a kind of forerunner to modern secularism and atheism, offering a perspective that says meaning and purpose come from the here and now, rather than from metaphysical beliefs. So to sum it all up, Charvaka's materialistic philosophy tells us that only the physical world exists. It challenges the traditional concepts of soul, karma, and an afterlife, arguing that these are human creations without any real evidence. Charvaka's ideas may be controversial and difficult for some to accept, but they push us to think critically about what we believe and why we believe it. Thanks for joining us today as we explore Charvaka's philosophy. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insights into fascinating philosophical ideas from around the world. And as always, keep questioning and keep learning.